This is Strictly Sickly, and I am Sara Hatfield, and this is
Kristin Martindale.
So this show is going to be about, well, obviously, chronic illness and pain, and that includes mental health issues, physical issues, all the issues.
Everything.
And it's also going to be about medicine in the modern world, cost, trying to get a doctor who doesn't suck balls.
Trying to get a doctor to listen to you, the difference between how it is as a woman trying to get help from a doctor and a man, how hard it is for people with chronic illness to just go about their daily lives, and how people are treated.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a little bit of everything involving chronic illness.
But the first episode, we figured we'd start by telling our stories, how we got here, how we started. And I actually did want you to go.
Oh, you want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I guess we're just starting in order of how our chronic...
Well, I'm not going to do mine in order because it's real non-linear.
Yeah, that's true.
Linear in my memory, but you're better at that. So,
well, I wrote it down, so that helps me out because I just kind of have it listed here. But okay, I guess I'll just start with all the things that I have, not necessarily in order, but just kind of a thingy. So for anybody who's curious about
oh yeah, and explain it too, because a lot of the stuff we have is not super.
Yeah, not well known or just not explained. So I'm sure you guys have heard, if you do watch the thing we originally came from, we talk about how we all have different chronic illnesses that make it hard for us to make it to podcasts or go to conventions, that kind of thing. So I'm sure you're curious what it is exactly that we have. So let me begin. So I have...
On a dark and stormy night.
On a dark and... Once upon a time. No, okay, so I don't have a lot of really serious things, but they're serious to me. But I have things like polycystic ovarian syndrome, which means that I have cysts on my ovaries, which cause pain, weight gain, pretty much pre-diabetes, all sorts of things like that, infertility. Then I have endometriosis, which is kind of off of that, which is where the lining from where you're supposed to shed every month doesn't exactly go where it's supposed to go. So it ends up on the outside of your organs and lovely things like that. Then I have like severe depression. I have anxiety. I've always had anemia. I now have chronic bronchitis because I poisoned myself. That was an accident. I didn't do it on purpose. I have small things like restless leg syndrome, carpal tunnel in both of my arms. I have arthritis in my fingers. I have chronic fatigue from all the other things that I have. And then on top of that, I also have the chronic pain, obviously, because that's a big part of everything that we both have is chronic pain. And then on top of that, I also have some unknown autoimmune disease that who knows what it is. No one knows, because who cares?
You also have a couple of heat strokes under your belt.
Oh, yeah, I do have a couple. I've had a couple heat strokes, so that's why when you guys see us outside, I look like I'm about to die if it's the summertime. It's because I'm about to die in the summertime.
Well, and a lot of people don't know about heat stroke, that once you get one, you're more likely to get another one. It lowers your ability to deal with that.
Yeah, it's pretty much what, I don't know who explained it to me, but it's like everybody has a cup of water, and once it boils over, you now have less water, so you have less tolerance to the heat kind of thing is the best way I've heard it explained to me. But yeah, that's, if you go out in the sun a lot, don't have a heat stroke, because you won't be able to go back out in the sun anymore. And now it is Sarah's turn. Please tell us what you have.
I was going to ask a few questions.
Oh,
so, I know so I have endometriosis and PCOS too. And when did yours present? When did it start?
I started having problems when I was 13 years old, but it didn't actually become a serious, diagnosable kind of thing until I was 15. But I was diagnosed with the PCOS when I was 15. I wasn't diagnosed with endometriosis until I was 20. So there's that.
Yeah, because I was a lot older, actually, when I had always had, and we're going to be talking about things on this show you might not want to hear about.
A little personal.
So I always had super heavy periods, but if you're a girl and you hit puberty, especially if you don't talk to your parents about that sort of stuff, you just think it's normal. Yeah. So I always thought it was normal to go through 8 boxes of pads a month and to be crippled by what was going on, but it wasn't. And I actually I didn't find out I had that stuff till after I had my first kid.
Oh.
I got pregnant at 20, and that pregnancy actually it went really well, because before that I never dealt with chronic illness. As a kid, I had a couple surgeries because I had a hearing deficit and collapsed eardrums, ear infection. So I had about 9 surgeries to deal with that. Then when I was 9, I had the last surgery on that, which I had hoped would be my last surgery.
No, not even close.
I had a few things as a teenager, like I get the weird chest pain that eventually it turned out that was I should stop turning away from the mic.
I mean, you can kind of lean in it like this.
But eventually it came to light that was my gallbladder acting up. But yeah, after I had Caitlin, I had no diagnoses, so I was healthy. But I noticed the first few weeks after her, I started getting really tired. And I mean the kind of tired where I'm halfway through eating a meal and I would go to sleep. The first diagnosis I ever got was Epstein-Barr disease, which is mono. I got mono. It just didn't present like normal mono. I didn't have the sore throat, the swollen lymph nodes. I was just exhausted. And that lasted about 2 years. And everyone thought I was just a new mom and wasn't handling it well.
Like postpartum depression or something like that, yeah.
And that's, back then a lot of people in my family thought I was that it was my mental health issues, which is they've kind of always been there. They got worse as the chronic illnesses, snowballed. But it took a long time for them to accept that I was actually sick.
I don't think they still have accepted that you're actually sick.
Some people haven't, and they've accepted that I'm sick, but they think I'm taking it too serious. Like, I don't try hard enough.
Yeah.
If you just push through the pain.
You think positive, you'll have a positive outlook on life.
After trying to walk off a broken leg, let me tell you, that doesn't work for everyone. No. You can't just walk it off. And through the first diagnosis that I actually got on paper that was a chronic forever disease was celiac disease, which is interesting because I don't have celiac disease.
And you went without donuts for how long?
3 years. I was gluten free, and I always wondered why I wasn't getting any better. But between my daughter and my son, I really struggled with the endometriosis and PCOS. That was the main things I dealt with because I was trying to have a kid, and it causes serious fertility issues. So I went through a lot, finally got pregnant, had a son, and figured that was it, because both times I got pregnant, they activated autoimmune diseases, which is, I guess, something a lot of people don't know. Pregnancy, if you have that in your genetics, it can activate, like if you have lupus in your genetics, pregnancy, stress, a bad car wreck, a bad bout of the flu, anything can activate these autoimmune diseases that live in your genetics. And it turns out the one I do have is RA. I don't know if I have others. They've suggested lupus, Sjogren's.
You might want to explain what RA is in case nobody knows.
Yeah, that's rheumatoid arthritis. So any autoimmune disease is your immune system attacking parts of your body it shouldn't be attacking. So like with lupus, it attacks a lot of different things. With RA, it attacks your joints. Sarcoidosis causes tumors to grow where they shouldn't. There's one that attacks your brain cells. Celiac disease attacks your intestines if you eat anything containing gluten. You see all these hippies that are gluten-free. That only works if you have an intolerance, which is a really real thing, or if you have celiac disease. And if you have celiac disease, any gluten can activate it.
Even if it touched something with gluten 3 weeks ago, it's still got gluten on it. So.
If someone cooked and didn't wear gloves and touched something with gluten and then touched my food, that would have activated it.
Had you actually?
Had I actually had it. But I also have complex regional pain syndrome. A weight fell on my hand. My son was about 2, ran into a bookshelf and knocked a 10-pound hand weight on my hand. And I got compartment syndrome. So basically all the blood was flowing into my hand, couldn't flow back out, and it was swelling. I almost lost the hand. Luckily, I retained not only the hand, but use of the hand. But it caused this complex regional pain syndrome, which basically means my brain is saying there's a serious injury there, even when there isn't. It's a brain disorder. It's compared most often to phantom limb pain. It's just your brain has become cross-wired. And there's really no way to cure this. There's some treatments, and then there's opiate medications. And I've done a few others, like injections into my spine. I had a second surgery on it a year later because I slammed it in a car door, but it turned out that shut up. It turned out that surgery was a good idea. I'm gonna have to take off this hoodie.
Yeah, go for it. Strip, strip, strip.
I was cold, but now I'm not.
Yeah. Also, you could be having a hot flash since you're going through the menopause.
But yeah, I slammed it in a car door and had the surgery. And when they went in, they saw that my the scar tissue had locked all the tendons in my hand down, which was causing the pain to be a lot worse. So they went in and fixed that. I was trying to think of the other things I have. Gastroparesis. So randomly, my body stopped digesting food. It would just sit in my stomach until I threw it back up. I used to be about 300 pounds. I lost 120 pounds in about a year and a half. And yeah, I couldn't eat at all. I probably went 6 months on nothing but weird vanilla shakes that were gross.
And like fruit by the roll things.
Yeah, that's the weird thing about gastroparesis is the more processed the food, the easier it is for you to digest.
It's like junk food was perfect. And
vegetables, red meats, these are still things I have a really hard time digesting. It's because your body takes more effort for those to digest. Mm-hmm. And it's why a lot of people with gastroparesis are actually quite overweight. It's because of the type of the food they end up having to eat. And it's that whole starvation mode's kind of a myth. Your body doesn't really do that. It's a different mechanic. But it does tend to hold on to calories if you're starving to death. Mm-hmm. So
if your body's not absorbing, you kind of are starving to death. So,
God, what else? Depression, anxiety, endometriosis, PCOS.
You have things like anemia.
Well, yeah, I'm prone to GI bleeds.
Yeah.
So I had to have a transfusion a few years ago. Yeah, some anemia.
Some stuff. You have chronic fatigue, you have sleep disorders.
Yeah, I got really bad insomnia.
Yeah.
Which, that's something I've always had. Like, even when I was a little kid, that's not new. Mm. It has gotten worse because pain makes it hard to sleep.
Yeah. Or to wake you up while you're asleep and now you're awake. So
yeah.
I've had to deal with that myself.
Yeah, anything wakes me up and I'm just up and I'm mad about it.
Yeah. I got 2 hours. I hate you.
It gives me rage. But a lot of the problem we've both dealt with is getting anybody to pay attention to us.
Yeah.
Because I know you've been to 1 billion doctors.
Approximately, yeah.
Yeah, and especially with your female issues.
Yeah, and I've had some doctors that, boy, oh boy, those doctors. I mean, if you're a woman and you have problems with your reproductive organs and you go to a doctor, 9 times out of 10 they're going to tell you that you're exaggerating, that it's not as bad as you think, that you just need to kind of grow up and get used to it, or they completely ignore you. And I've been to so many doctors and so many of them will just write me off and send me home without helping at all. And then the ones that do want to help, they, like, for example, I had somebody who really did want to help me, and she said that the main thing that she would recommend would be to just have a complete hysterectomy, have everything removed, and that might help me. So she sent me to a surgeon who spent about an hour making fun of me, telling me that I didn't actually have any of these conditions, that I had made this up, that he needed to see proof that I had been diagnosed with this, which he already had proof because the doctor kind of sent me over. And then he said, I told him at one point I have PCOS. That's a thing that I've been diagnosed with. And he pulled out this piece of paper and started asking me all these questions that they ask you when you're diagnosed with PCOS. And I got through about 3 of them before I just broke down and started crying. And he said, "Why are you crying?" I said, "Because you're not listening to me. You're completely ignoring me. You're treating me like I'm a child. And I would really like to get some respect from you, first of all. And at this point, I'm like, at this point, I'm not even going to get your help. I just wish that you would not treat me so bad." And that's been a problem for a lot of doctors. She was there with me for one. I went to the ER, and at first the doctor thought my appendix had burst. But more likely, after thinking it over and looking, it was probably I had another ovarian cyst burst, which happens a lot. But the ER doctor came in and he asked me what I thought it could be. And I said, well, I have PCOS and endometriosis. And the ER doctor looked me in the eye and said, oh, I don't know anything about that woman stuff.
Yeah, that's what he actually said. Yeah. I was there.
Those were his words. I don't know anything about that woman stuff. Like, you're an ER doctor. Maybe you should, it's not like we're a different species. We're still human. You're still a doctor. Maybe you should, educate yourself about half of the people that you're going to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. If you're going in for pain, you're going to be mistreated. And if you're going in for reproductive problems, you're going to be mistreated. If you're going in for mental health thing, you're just hysterical. And so it's really hard as a woman to get any help.
I remember the third time I had been, it started in December. I was throwing up blood. And I went to the hospital and they said, yes, you're throwing up blood. I was pooping blood. There was blood coming out both ends. They said, yes, these are things that are happening. Now go home.
Yeah.
I went home. I came back a month later.
Still throwing up blood.
Still throwing up blood. And when they tried to send me home that time, I freaked out. I started crying. And I was like, what do you want me to do? Because, H&H is hemocritin, hemoglobin. It's your blood counts. And mine were steadily dropping, but they weren't low enough. They weren't low enough to get treatment right then. And instead of doing anything else for me, he gave me an IV shot of Ativan, which is it's an anxiety med. Mm-hmm. So basically he drugged me rather than listen to me ask him why he was sending me home while I'm vomiting. And it wasn't just a little blood. It's not like I was throwing up just a little blood.
Oh, no, it was a lot of blood.
It's at the end of it, I calculated I lost 2.5 liters of blood. My H&H dropped to lower than half of what it should have been. I ended up having a transfusion. See, I went on vacation like a week after I got out of the hospital, and I was taking pictures of myself. I was up in the snow, and I was the color of the snow.
Yeah.
Like, none of that was okay.
You also had that nurse that asked, had you been drinking any Kool-Aid?
Oh, yeah. Or they do that. Have you been drinking anything, Rhett?
No, it's blood.
And even if I was, they have it's called a guac test. It's a blue sheet of paper, and basically they put a finger up your butt and they rub it on this piece of paper, and if it can test if it's blood. It tests positive or negative, and it was blood. So even if I had been chugging Kool-Aid and eating watermelon, it was still blood.
Yeah.
And yeah, I went home and decided I was just dead.
Yeah. This is how I die. Nobody's going to help me.
Yeah, which isn't the first time I've gone home like, well, this is it.
Yeah. No one's listening. I just die here in my bed.
Well, because people always say, oh, why don't you just go to another doctor? Why don't you just go back to the ER? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do this? Because none of it works.
It's all the same exact thing, just on repeat over and over again. Hearing somebody say, you're exaggerating, it's not as bad as you say, go home, sleep it off, you'll be fine. And then 3 years later, you're still the exact same. You can go back to a doctor and they'll still say, you're over exaggerating, go home, sleep it off. It's just not going to end.
I say, because I'm 33. I got chronically ill when I was 20. And as of yet, I have found very few doctors, and even the ones who are willing to work with me, have never figured out exactly what is going on.
Yeah. And I know that my first ER visit having an actual problem was between 12 or 13, and I'm 26 now, and I have seen so many doctors, and they are all exactly the same. A lot of them look at me and they say, it's because you're fat. It's all because you're fat. And then I try to tell them that I was completely healthy. I did gymnastics and cheerleading and dance.
You were skinny.
Oh, yeah. I was perfectly healthy up until I was 15. And then I started having these debilitating periods. And then suddenly I ballooned up to how I am now. And I just have tried every diet, every exercise that I possibly can. But now with the chronic pain, exercise isn't really a thing I can do anymore. And diet doesn't really do anything. So really, this caused the fatness. But every time I go, they're like, it's because you're fat. You should just lose weight. And then they tell me, well, the PCOS and endo kind of gives you like diabetes almost. So it's kind of like you can't lose weight, but you should lose weight. And it's an endless circle of
Well, in the general rule for if you want to lose weight, you eat less calories than you put out, which is, it works for most people. But for people with PCOS, you generally have what's called insulin resistance. So your body is taking all these calories, it's holding on to them, and when you exercise, it's not putting enough back out.
Yeah.
I had one doctor, and I actually found an OB doctor I really like, and he's been very helpful. And he said it's basically like double. I have to eat half the calories and double the amount of exercise a normal person would do in order to lose weight.
And if you have chronic pain, again, doing that exercise is just not a thing you can do unless you find something special. Like being in the water helps, but how often can you be?
Unless you have a pool, I guess. Well, I mean, even when I was 300 pounds, I was a big hiker, swimmer. Like I did a lot of stuff. And people always told me that if I lost weight, I'd feel better. But it's weird because after I lost that weight, I've never felt worse.
Yeah. It didn't make it any better.
No. If anything, it made it worse.
Yeah.
The other thing we deal with is being poor.
Yeah. So that makes it really difficult to not only find a doctor. Like, I don't have health insurance. You do.
Yeah, I do.
But yours is pretty crap. But I don't have any health insurance. So I have to go to the tribal clinic to get all my stuff done. And their rules are ridiculous, and they have very strict things about, especially reproductive things. They don't believe in taking away your ability to be a mother. It doesn't matter the problem unless it's right then and there. You're dying. They are not going to take it. So they won't do anything to help because of their morals, I guess.
I don't know. Seems pretty immoral to let somebody be in pain their entire life.
Yeah. But they're adamantly against any kind of hysterectomy or vasectomies or birth control or a lot of things they're pretty against. They're not going to help you. And if you do have health insurance, you know, how often are you actually getting help with that?
Well, yeah, I have health insurance. So my husband works for Walmart, and the problem with the health insurance is that my deductible is about 26 grand. I'm sick, so I meet this deductible almost every year. And after that, everything is paid. But before that's met, I can't afford to go to the doctor. I can't afford medications. Most of my medications are $200. I don't know where they think we're getting these things.
Yeah, that was something somebody was asking about. Why don't you go to the doctor? And even if you do go to the doctor, they may give you a prescription for you to go get, and then you go to the pharmacy, and when they hand you that bill for $300, you're not getting that med. So it's like you might as well have not even gone.
Yeah, there's two I've been on that's really bad. One of them was called scopolamine, and it's a patch. And that's when I was puking really bad. You put it behind your ear. It's really helpful. The problem is, even with my insurance, it was $380 a month. And the most recent one was I had a pulmonary embolism. I had a blood clot go to my lungs. So I needed to be on a blood thinner. They wrote me a med called Eliquis, which is a fairly new blood thinner. But it was, it was $400 for a week supply.
Good God.
Of the Eliquis.
For a week?
Yes, for a week. We did the math. It was more than our mortgage altogether a month.
Dang.
And which is crazy because that's a med I needed to survive.
Yeah.
Blood clots kill 1/3 of the people that get them. Yeah. I was lucky enough to survive, and then I couldn't afford the med.
Yeah, to help you continue to survive.
Which is weird because I ended up going on Coumadin, warfarin, which is the med they give everybody. It's a cheap med, so I opted to go on that. But for some reason, my body chemistry didn't like it, and it raised my INR, which is the number they test the ratio for blood clots, was so high that they were afraid I was going to bleed out and die, so I stopped taking that one. They wanted me to put me back on the Eliquis, and I just decided to stop taking them.
Oh, yeah. I remember when I got this chronic bronchitis thing, they prescribed me 2 inhalers to help me not, be able to breathe again. And the first one was only like $80. So I was able to get the one inhaler, which I still keep, but the other one was about $300. And there's just no way I'm going to be able to afford $300 for an inhaler. So if that first one hadn't have worked, I might have just choked to death in my sleep. Yeah. Who knows? And I think about the people who need life-saving medications every day.
Insulin's a bad one.
Yeah, insulins, anything for if you have autoimmune diseases that you need to take certain meds for, or if you have just any deadly anything. How are people affording this stuff? And it's ridiculous that people just don't understand that whenever you're poor, you're not going to get the help that you need in medical care in America just because we're too poor.
Well, and it's a bad cycle because you're poor, so you want to go out and get a job. And you have to be healthy to keep a job. I mean, I've tried going back to school and working at least once a year for the past 13 years. And every time I've ended up in the hospital, I've ended up having a surgery or, breaking a leg. Something crazy has happened, and everybody always has their, oh, well, you should do this, you should do this. They have their things they think you should do, but none of it works. And then when you argue, they think you're just coming up with excuses.
Yeah, you're just trying to be lazy. You don't want to work.
But I wouldn't be here if I hadn't tried everything already. I would not be this desperate if something had worked.
Because I know right now I have a job, but I worked there for a year, and I've already had to call in about 6 times with extremely bad period pain. Luckily, my boss there also has endometriosis, so she understands, but not everybody's as lucky. If you were to call in, I know one of my friends has really bad endometriosis, and she got fired from her job because she had to call in so often. And she's just nothing she could do. She would try to take meds. She would try to take hot baths, and she would try everything, but the person just wasn't understanding. So she got fired because she missed so many days, which it's just nothing you can do.
It's utter bullshit.
Yeah.
And I hear in Canada, they can't fire you for being sick.
That would be nice.
Which is why we've all considered defecting.
Yeah, I would love to go to Canada.
Especially because we live in Texas, and when the ACA Affordable Care Act came through, I was like, okay, well, this is going to be a good thing. So I tried to apply for it. I got back a letter saying I was too poor to qualify for the ACA and that my state should cover me with Medicare. Unfortunately, Texas did not take the Medicare-Medicaid buyout that the government offered when the ACA came through. So I fall directly through the cracks.
Yeah, you get absolutely nothing because we're too poor.
Yeah, it's weird to be too poor for the thing for poor people.
Yeah.
Like what sense does that make? And I'm lucky because I've got a husband that works. And without him, I'd be screwed.
Oh, yeah. If I didn't have a husband that worked, I would be homeless and probably dead already.
Yeah.
Because my job doesn't make any money.
No. And that's the other problem is it's really hard to get an education when you're chronically ill. I've had to default on 2 grants because, 1, because my hand got crushed, and 2, because I was pregnant and my son decided to be born 2 months early.
How dare he?
So now I don't qualify for grants anymore.
Yeah. I have the same problem for different reasons, but I can't get any more grants. And even the scholarships that I had, I'm not even sure if they'd give me those anymore. And yeah, because I was trying to go to school, and then I had the carpal tunnel. I was in massage therapy, and then my hand stopped working, so I couldn't do anything. And yeah, you just kind of have to drop out of school at that point.
Well, yeah, I've got 2 kids, and I've had people on the internet say things to me like, well, you should have given them up for adoption. You shouldn't have had kids. I wasn't chronically ill when I got pregnant the first time. I had a job making fairly good money. Like, I was in the medical field. I was an EMT, but I worked at a home for the mentally handicapped. I brought in pretty good paychecks. But once I got sick, I couldn't do that anymore. And it's almost like people think you should have planned for it.
Yeah, you should have known you were going to be ill.
But I don't think anyone can plan for the kind of stuff that has happened. I don't think that's possible.
And you're just so randomly spaced out and timed, and there's such weird things that just happen suddenly. I don't see how you could plan for that.
Because I do have a weird, like, once tore a toe halfway off with a shoelace.
You got a hole in your leg from a stick.
Yeah, I got a hole in my leg from a stick that required 2 surgeries. I got bit by a spider.
Brown recluse. Yeah.
Yeah, I got an infection in my arm.
You had to have a little box that was outside of your body that kept getting hung on things and shocking you.
Yeah, I got a spinal cord stimulator, which is supposed to send electrical signals to block the pain. The nerves that respond to pain. which was fine until I lost that 120 pounds. And then it was huge, and I banged it on everything, and it was right next to my spine, so I ended up having it taken out. But it's funny because the first 2 weeks you have it, it's wired to the outside of your body with a controller because they don't want to put it in until they know for sure it's going to work. But I kept walking around, like
like dragging the thing
yeah,
behind you.
or it would get stuck to something, and I'd try and walk away, and it would electrocute me.
Just zap you.
Yeah, that was no fun. And CRPS is a progressive disease. So every year it spreads.
Yeah.
So it started in just my left hand. Now it's in my left arm. It's in my shoulders. It's in my back. And I believe in my jaw now.
Lovely.
Yeah, I know.
That's what you need.
Yeah, that or I have TMJ.
Either way sucks.
I had that one. I had the broken foot, the broken leg, the weight fall on my hand. Yeah, nothing normal ever happens.
Yeah.
The hernias.
I mean, I guess mine could have been a little more prepared for if I knew. But the problem was that a lot of that didn't get diagnosed until way later. So, like, the PCOS wasn't diagnosed until I was 15. And then I guess I could have kind of planned for the PCOS. But I kept having worse and worse and worse and worse problems. And it wasn't until 5 years later that they said, oh, it's this. So sometimes you just can't plan because you may be sick, but you don't know what it is. So how do you plan for it?
Well, and a lot of people have endometriosis or PCOS, and it never gets that bad.
Yeah.
A lot of people have it, and they just kind of exist with it their entire life. It's really varied on how people react to it.
Because I think they said like 1 in 7 women, 1 in 5, something like that, will have endometriosis.
It's a high number.
Yeah. But there's people who have it, and it's just kind of a thing that you have infertility problems. Maybe you don't have a period every month. And then there's people on the other end of that are always in pain 24/7, don't have periods, can't get pregnant, have all these other health issues that go with it. And just, so it just kind of depends.
When it can attach to weird organs, like in my case, it attached to my small intestine, causing the, constant puking, the gastroparesis. I in one case, a girl had it attached to her spine and cause issues with that. It's just very random on where it goes, and it acts like a cancer. It's just cells that divide out of control.
It just spreads to everything it can get its little hands on, and yeah.
And there is absolutely no cure. I've had I've had 3 surgeries, 2 to kind of cut it out. And then the last one was a complete hysterectomy, oophorectomy. They took my ovaries, they took my uterus, they took my appendix because the endometriosis had eaten it. And even then, they couldn't get it all off my intestines, so I still have it, and it will keep coming back. There is no cure for it.
No. And some of the cures that they have for things like the PCOS doesn't work for everybody either. A lot of people are treated with birth control for PCOS, but I've tried, I don't even know, at least a dozen different birth controls, and all of them did the opposite of what they were supposed to do. So they kept pulling me off of them, and then they tried to put me on, what's the name of it?
Is it metformin?
Yeah, metformin. They tried to put me on that to help with things, but it bottomed out my blood sugar, and I ended up in the ER, and they were like force feeding me weird things to try to get my blood sugar up because I was sleeping for days, and I would just pass out and nobody could wake me, and it was awful. So some of the things that they say, well, just take this and you'll feel better, or how come you don't try this, or have you thought about trying this? Yes, we have. It just doesn't work.
Either I've tried it, it was too expensive, or you're an idiot and it's not something that's going to work.
Yeah.
Don't try and sell me your hippie products.
Yeah. And I get sick to death of people saying, well, have you tried using this med instead? Yes. Well, have you tried doing this exercise? Yes. Well, have you looked into doing... Yes, I absolutely have. I've had this for a very long time. I've looked into everything. It doesn't matter that you went and Googled it for 5 minutes and you have found something fancy. I've tried that, or I've looked into that. So you're just kind of making me mad.
Yeah.
Or if you're one of our friends, well, you should just get out and exercise more.
Okay.
Sure. Well, let me pull myself out of this bed. I'll stop crying. Maybe I'll be able to walk long enough to go put some pants on. It's just...
Well, and especially with the RA, if I do any sort of super high impact things, it makes it worse.
Yes.
Permanently.
Running and jogging, climbing, that kind of thing is going to hurt you more.
Yeah, but people try and sell me all sorts of, try this shake, try
Yeah.
this thing, go vegan, go gluten-free. Oh, I already did that one. It didn't do anything.
It made it worse.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it made it worse, but it definitely didn't help. But like the metformin actually worked for me in a lot of ways. It didn't help the pain, but
Yeah.
it helped the weight gain and a lot of the other symptoms. But yeah, it doesn't work for everybody.
No, because I know you and Allie, you're both on metformin, and it helped you with certain things,
Yeah.
but it just didn't help me. And I know a lot of the birth controls, either you guys tried and it was fine, or she's still on some, and it just depends for each person. And that's another problem with going to the doctor with this kind of thing, is that the first thing they'll jump at is, well, why don't you try this birth control? Well, I've already been on that birth control. They pulled me off of it because it made it worse. Well, have you tried this birth control?
Well, and they don't seem to care if you've already tried it.
Yeah.
They don't believe you. They want you to try again.
Yeah, we'll give it another 6 months, see if it works. You're making it worse.
Yeah, I'm about done with doctors.
Oh, I've been done.
I know.
I haven't been to a doctor in about 3 years, 4 years, something like that. And I know people are going to look at me crazy, like, well, why wouldn't you go? There's no point.
Yeah, I've been with you.
Yeah.
I can validate. There is no point.
Yeah. It's pretty bad when you call into the doctor, and they tell you to come up there, and they look at you and go, oh, that's normal. Everybody has period problems, so, just get used to it. And then they send you home.
Yeah. That's why with my daughter, when she started her period, I was worried because it can be genetic. So I finally sat down with her and I was like, okay, I need you to be honest because I'll believe you. How bad is it on a scale of 1 to 10? And she was like, oh, a 4 or 5. I was like, okay, that's okay. Mm-hmm. If it gets above a 5, we will take you immediately to a doctor and have this dealt with.
Yeah. Well, I know that my mom took me when I was very young because she has the same problems, and she recently had to have a complete hysterectomy because she had cancer polyps in her fallopian tubes and things. But she took me when I was about 11 or 12 to the ER because I was having really bad period pain and there was a lot of blood. And she took me, and the nurse there, I hadn't even seen the doctor yet, but the nurse said, how much are you bleeding? And I said, I have gone through 2 ultra thick pads in the last hour. And she said, I doubt it. And then she just rolled me into the room. I never saw a doctor. They gave me some Tylenol and they sent me home. But I remember that very specifically because it was the first ER trip ever. I was panicking because there was so much blood. And she just said, I doubt it. Like, how little do you care about your patients?
You know, the actual general rule for that is a pad every 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I worked... and see, that's the thing is I want to go back and work in the medical field, but knowing everything I know now and how they treat people, I'm not sure if I can, in good conscience,
Yeah.
deal with that. Because even when I was in there with my hand and it was so swollen, and the doctor kept sending me home, he said, you can't get compartment syndrome in your hand. Liar. The nurse told him, she said, I really think you need to keep her here. And you need to do something about this. And he ignored her. Mm-hmm. Because if you've ever been a nurse, doctors don't treat them very nice.
No, I don't imagine they do.
I mean, I'm sure some do. I mean, when I worked in the hospital, I knew some doctors that were very pleasant people. It just seems like the majority of them are very uppity.
Yeah, especially with women. We get treated way worse than men, in case you haven't noticed.
Yeah, it's the kidney stone thing. I woke up one morning, I was still breastfeeding my son, and I noticed a kind of pain on my lower left side, and I thought, oh, well, I'll just ignore it. I have pain. That's okay. And by the time I had gotten up and got into the bathroom, I collapsed. And I thought I was dying. I'd never had a kidney stone before. I thought I was dying. I got to the hospital, and they medicated me for it and sent me home. And they're like, well, at least you're not a boy. These are so much more painful for boys. They are not.
Yeah, put that to rest right now, 'cause that's...
A kidney stone hurts because it's stuck in something called your ureter. It's your tube between your kidney and your bladder. Your ureter has the exact same size and sensitivity as it does in a boy's. A girl's ureter and a boy's ureter is the same size. Also, a girl's urethra is smaller by quite a bit. Quite a bit. If you've ever had to put a catheter in somebody, a girl's your urethra is a lot smaller. So I don't know why people think they hurt worse than boys. I don't get that. But I went with my second kidney stone, and they gave me ibuprofen. My husband went in with a 1 millimeter kidney stone, and they gave him like a quadruple dose of Dilaudid. I was like, what is this bullshit?
Yeah.
What is this? And he was like, yeah, okay, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
I guess this is all true. They treat girls worse than boys.
I think about, I had that flesh-eating bacteria that I got from Louisiana in Lake Bistineau. Don't go in there. I got a bacteria that was eating my flesh away, and I kept being told over and over again that it was folliculitis and that I just needed to be careful about the hair or whatever. And I got ignored on no less than 6 occasions before it got bad enough that they had to they had to take portions out. And that took so many different visits, and that took so many different doctors, and I never got a single medication for it, ever. Not a pain thing, no nothing. And my husband went in with a very small staph infection. Very small, not even an important place, and he was seen immediately, checked in, had medication, and was out in an hour. So,
and racially, actually, African American females are the least likely to receive adequate pain care.
That's true.
Yeah, they did a study that for some reason, a lot of doctors are under the impression that African American people, that any people of color really don't experience pain on the same level as white people. I'm not sure where they got this idea, but you can look up medical store studies. It's factually accurate. They think that white people experience pain in a different way, and they require more pain medication, which is really weird and makes no sense to me.
Yeah. I figured that probably women of color are treated way worse than us, and then I figured that trans women and trans men are probably... I feel really sorry for anybody who's transgender and tries to get any kind of medical help, because I'm sure you are just thrown under the bus and left behind to your own devices without help.
I can't even imagine being trans, especially in Texas.
Oh, God, yeah.
I can't imagine being trans in Texas and trying to go get medical care.
I'm sure that you guys probably just avoid it like we do. I would. If somebody was treating me the way I imagine you get treated, I probably wouldn't go.
Which was actually one of the goals of us starting this Facebook and this podcast, was to find doctors that were better when it came to women and when it became with trans care, with anyone in the LGBTQ community, really. Because it's really hard to find doctors around here that don't have Bible verses all over their walls.
Crosses hanging up in the clinic rooms. And
which I understand that doesn't automatically mean they're not going to treat you, but in my experience, that means you're probably going to get a less standard of care than you would. And we'd really like to find some people that will treat them like people. What a concept.
Yeah, we wanted to start this to not only get a little bit of information about doctors who do care, but to kind of spread that out to people who need that help. And we also wanted to hear from other people who have had some experiences in the medical care, just to how you've been treated, what the difference is between here and there, and whether you're male or female, or if you're transitioning or whatever. We just wanted to hear from other people to see if you have the same kind of problems that we do, and if people also treat you like crap because you're sick. Because I know we get treated like crap all the time.
And I remember I started volunteering in the hospital when I was 13 because my mom was the charge nurse. And I remember treating frequent flyers like crap. I remember doing these, that person's a drug seeker, just treat them and street them, don't give them any medications. And I look back and I wonder how many people I watched, get thrown to the wolves. Just, okay, you're chronically ill, yeah, you're gonna end up in the hospital more than a lot of other people. That's the way it works. You become a frequent flyer, and hospitals do treat frequent flyers differently. And on one hand, I do understand this. There are drug seekers. There are people that waste your time. But there's people that really need help. And then there's, even if you're a drug seeker, you still get sick sometimes. Addicts get sick. Mm-hmm. They deserve the same standard of care as everyone else. It's, our medical system is just trash.
It is.
And I'm honestly not sure if we went to a single payer system or to universal healthcare. I'm honestly not sure if it'd get any better, the treatment wise.
Yeah. I don't know. It'd still be the same doctor, so.
Money wise, things would be better, and you could probably see a broader set of doctors, but I'm not sure if the treatment would get better.
I don't think it would.
I don't know. But yeah, so other episodes we're going to do live because we want to hear from other people that have had, similar issues. We're going to have some guests on. Mm-hmm. My friend Allie is probably going to be a regular because she has a lot of the same issues we do.
Yeah. We're also going to have a few people on to just strictly talk about mental health illness because we both have that. And then we have some people who are also very ill with that. So we're going to have them on there as well. We wanted to just do the first one, not live because it's our first one.
Yeah.
We didn't really have a plan or a schedule or a set what we were going to talk about really. So it'll be different from now on.
Yeah, we're going to need feedback for the rest of the show.
Yeah.
That's one thing I wonder if it's opposite for guys sometimes, mental health care.
I don't know.
Because they treat guys like they shouldn't have issues with that.
You shouldn't have emotions.
Yeah, you're a dude. Suck it up. Stop being a pussy.
I don't know. I guess what it would be for both. It would be don't be a pussy, and then for girls, it's quit being hysterical.
Yeah.
So I guess either way, mental health is treated so bad here. It's just something that needs to be talked about because people with mental health suffer a lot, and nobody treats them seriously, and it's pretty bad.
There's another one. I went to the hospital when I was puking blood, and I was in the shower and I'd thrown up blood, and I was taking a shower, so it looked like a lot more than it was, but it was a lot of blood. I went out in the hallway, and I was like, I'm freaking out, and they came in there, oh, you're just having a panic attack. Yes, I threw up blood everywhere. I am having a panic attack. It feels like a legitimate panic attack. And they just left,
bye, good luck.
I feel that sometimes panic is legitimate.
Yeah. Sometimes your body knows something is wrong and it might panic. Especially if it thinks that your life is in danger. I'm sure it would panic. Yeah. It's pretty crazy. So we don't have a method of closing out yet. So is there any last remarks that you would like to leave before we go? Don't shake your head at me. Say something.
No, I do not believe so. But we're going to come up with a schedule and maybe start some blogs and a list of doctors who you've seen that are good and are bad.
Yes.
We will be doing that, and we hope other people participate.
Yes, so please come contribute and join us on Facebook and wherever this may be posted, who knows, and leave any comments. Try not to be a dick. Don't go on there and write, just kill yourselves.
Yeah, because I've had people tell me that on the internet before, and I am the admin of this page, and I'll just fucking block you. I don't care anymore. I'm not playing argue, debate. No, just go away.
Yeah, well, we don't want to hear you. So.
Yeah, go live your sad life somewhere else.
So I guess that's it for Strictly Sickly, and we'll see you next time. Huzzah.
I'm counting down the days to go. This just ain't living, and I just hope you know I will not kiss you. Lips are chapped and faded, call my lips are chapped and faded, kiss you. Lips are chapped and faded, call